Welcome back. We're switching gears now to South Africa's long-running Phala Phala controversy, which I think, has entered a critical new phase with President Cyril Ramaphosa turning to the courts in an effort to halt Parliament's impeachment process before you can even proceed any further. And at the center of the dispute is Parliament Section 89 process, which is essentially established to determine whether there are sufficient grounds for the president's removal from office over the Phala Phala farm scandal. President Cyril Ramaphosa, I think as expected, argues that the process should not continue, while opposition parties insist Parliament has a constitutional obligation to hold the president accountable and to allow the inquiry to proceed. And the latest development has sparked, I think, a new wave of conversations, a political battle, with opposition parties now urging the National Assembly Speaker, Umam Didiza, to vigorously oppose the president's court application, and they are arguing that allowing the legal challenge to succeed could ultimately, should we say, undermine or, I don't know, legally undermine Parliament's oversight role, and it could also set some sort of a precedent that could affect future accountability processes. And what's interesting, I think, another aspect to touch on is that with the matter now unfolding simultaneously in the courts and in Parliament, the case is shaping up to be one of the most significant constitutional and, I think, politically testing of President Ramaphosa's presidency. And we're going to be unpacking all of it with the spokesperson of the ATM, one of the political parties that has been quite outspoken and is head and shoulders above everyone else when it comes to seeing this matter through. And we'll be speaking to their spokesperson, Zama, who's joining us to give us their reaction, to give us their thoughts on the latest regarding this. Zama, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you and the listeners.
Yeah, I think we'll jump right into it. First and foremost, your response or reaction to President Ramaphosa's decision to approach the courts at this stage. What do you make of it? And just maybe for our listeners who don't know the latest, where would you say we are exactly with the Phala Phala matter at this point?
Thank you so much. Well, for the African Transformation Movement, what this is him being consistent with his modus operandi on this case, and that being evade. Just a few pointers that would support what I'm saying. When he was supposed to put up a blind trust so that he does not violate Section 96, subsection 2A, on members of the cabinet not having other paid work, he didn't. But he still continued to do business. When he was supposed to declare the dollars, he didn't. He kept them in couches. When he was supposed to report consistent to PRACA 34, subsection 1, criminality, theft included of money over 100,000 must be reported to a DPCI office, he didn't. He just chased criminals, apprehended individuals without a case number, warrant of arrest, violated all kinds of laws. When it came to 31 questions being answered, suspended the public protector, subjected her to an impeachment. When it came to the new public protector requesting the answers to the 31 questions, kept on asking for extensions and extensions. When it was time for him to account in Parliament, he used parliamentary majority as also the Constitutional Court has also agreed on the matter. Used constitutional majority to actually abort a process of accountability. That has been his modus operandi. Now that the Constitutional Court has finally given the mandate to Parliament to continue with the matter, he's all of a sudden now saying that this report is unfair. Why didn't you say that 4 years ago? Now this is what he's going to do now. Now that he is interdicting Parliament, he's going to the Western Cape High Court. If the finding is not right for him, He's going to take it to the Supreme Court of Appeals. If it is not right, he's going to take it to the Constitutional Court. And that, judging from what happened when we were waiting for the recent judgment on the abortion of a process of accountability by Parliament, that would take us to beyond 2029, which is the play. So for us at the African Transformation Movement, this is nothing else but him being consistent in evading to answer.
Very, very important to note. The ATM has been one of the most vocal parties on this issue. What is your main objection to the president's court application, and also opposition parties like yourselves are calling on parliamentary speaker Diza to oppose President Ramaphosa's bid? Why do you believe that the speaker also has a responsibility to defend parliament's position at this stage?
One, the four issues that were raised when this whole issue started, because remember, the African Transformation Movement submitted the request for the impeachment process on the basis of four issues. Two of them have already shared. It's the issue of other paid work, the issue of conflict of interest, the issue of issuing of an unlawful instruction, and the issue of the violation of PREC, which you see that former Chief Justice Nobo said in all four counts there is reason for the president to answer. Now, the reason we want the speaker to actually do one is that the president, whether when he was speaking or in his affidavit, has agreed that he has done all four. On the first account, which is other paid work, when he was closing the Limpopo conference, he said, I'm a farmer, I sell animals. The money from my farm were proceeds from a game sale, admitting that he's in violation of Section 96. So why does he feel that the report is wrong to say he must answer when he has admitted himself? This is why I want this to be rejected, what he's saying, because he's already admitted. The second thing, when he was asked about reporting, he said, I did not report to an SAPS office or TPCI office. I instructed General Roder to investigate the matter. But he's forgetting 34 subsection 4E is clear on this matter. It is saying the onus of the reporting is in the member of the close corporation, and he is the sole owner. So if Roder does not do it, Ndovu does not do it, and others, the onus of the reporting is on the member of the close corporation, and he's the sole owner of Dabanyoni. So why do you even take this report for review? And also, if he's serious about removing the cloud over his head, the commission is the best place. Come and give your narrative. We will be listening as South Africans. Let us determine if the ATM and everybody else who has been raising a matter of this nature is a liar or you are. So for us, truly, this is just trying to evade once again. This is why it is important that the speaker must get in, refuse the issue of the interdict of the process of Parliament. Parliament must hold the executive accountable.
I think it was sometime last week when the president was responding to, I think, what was a very, very robust parliamentary debate on the presidency's budget vote. Last week, Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. He also just briefly touched on the Phala Phala matter. He essentially said that political parties like the ATM are electoral posturing, and this is all in a bid to discredit him. It was political theater and held no weight at all. What did you make of that remark?
The ATM is the political party that filed for the Section 89 impeachment process. This is now not in 2026. This is back in 2020. 2021, 2022. The ATM is the party that files for the investigations of the executive members, ethics sector, the public protector. There were no elections. The ATM is the party that filed for the IP investigation on the police that were involved, which was released about 2 months ago. The ATM is one of two parties that went to the Constitutional Court. You can't, when we have been at this issue of accountability. All of a sudden claim that we just woke up from under a rock and because it's elections, we're electioneering. No, we are on record on each of and every one of these instances trying to get you to respond to the matter. So the president right now is being true to himself and being an individual who evades accountability, who does not want this issue discussed. And the best way of doing that is to try and banter, so to speak, and say to political parties like the ATM that we are political posturing. This is no political posturing. What we want is this. And Mohammed Ahmed, who was found with 540,000 US dollars, upon undeclared, upon being discovered, he was processed, sentenced, and all. A Miss Potgieter, who was found in 2026 with money when converted to South African rands, was 5 million rand from US dollars. She was also processed. A student who was found at the OR Tambo with 680,000 US dollars undeclared was also processed. Now, why is it that a Ramaphosa with 580,000 US dollars in couches cannot be processed? We must not play around here. There is precedence and case law in this country of individuals who have violated all kinds of laws. And in this case, the issue of the exchange, the currency exchange laws, he has violated fully, and everything else, by the way, everything else that has followed after the violation of Section 96 and the exchange laws is a cover up for the two sins. The actual sins here is the lack of declaration of the currency and the issue of a president who is active in getting other paid work. Those are the two sins. Everything else is a cover up.
And I think you mentioned cases where similar kind of scenarios where people were caught with foreign currency that was not declared and they were ultimately held to account for it. We have a situation where the courts could agree to halt or delay Parliament's impeachment inquiry. What kind of precedent do you think that could set if it does go through?
Unfortunately, it will allow an illegitimate president to remain at the helm of leadership. Unfortunately, it will allow an individual who knows very well that post his presidency he is going to be criminally charged, and successfully so, to remain. What will a thief? Remember, when you don't pay taxes, you are a thief. You have stolen from the fiscus of the country. We would allow. What would they do when they know that post this impeachment is imminent? Because remember, we can also impeach you even when you have left office. So when you know that impeachment is imminent and all benefits that would be given to a president, you are not going to get, because you know that opposition have a strong case on this. What are you going to do with your remaining 3-4 years? That is the worry that we have. This country will be sold to the highest bidder when you have a man like that who knows that he's guilty, but who has used the weaknesses of the system to defend himself. That's why the courts must find that this issue of interdicting Parliament because of frivolous attempts after an individual has accepted his faults is something that must not be allowed. We believe, as the African Transformation Movement, we can protect this country if the courts of the land refuse Mr. Ramaphosa the interdict.
Well, they have it. Zama Ntshona, National Spokesperson of the African Transformation Movement. Thank you so much, Baba. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much to you and the listeners.
There you have it, Zama Ntshona, as I mentioned, spokesperson of the ATM, unpacking for us the latest developments in the Phala Phala saga. And yeah, what began as a simple questions surrounding a burglary. I think if you remember at the president's private game reserve out in Venda, Phala Phala game reserve, has essentially evolved into a constitutional test. All of us are learning these new terms and the constitutions and different sections and what they mean, and how parliament oversight almost converge, and presidential accountability, and most importantly, and I think this is one we must not lose sight of, is the separation of powers in the state and judiciary. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how it all pans out, and if that case in itself, that outcome of that battle, could have implications that are far beyond Phala Phala itself. They could be defining of how South Africa balances executive authority with democratic accountability. So yeah, very, very momentous time in South Africa. Our constitution again being tested. Being tested, and it has proven to emerge quite a few times as a document that we can all take pride on. But it'll be interesting if it does emerge this time around, and if it yields the proper results and people are held accountable. Not saying President Ramaphosa is guilty, but let him go through the test. And that litmus test by the Constitution will tell us whether or not he should be impeached and he broke his oath of office. Going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you after this.
Soweto, it's time to stand together for justice, peace, and solidarity. Join us for the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, taking place on Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 a.m. The walk will begin at the historic Regina Mundi Church and proceed to the monumentous Dlamini Mosque, bringing together people of all faiths, backgrounds, and communities in a powerful show of unity and support. Bring your family, friends, and fellow residents as we walk together for a common cause. Let your voice be heard and your presence counted. That's the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 in the morning, starting at Regina Mundi Church and ending at Dlamini Mosque. Together we walk, together we stand, together we show solidarity.